Hello learners, I am Dipu Bosumatari, Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Krishnakanta Hendrik State Open University. Today we will be discussing Unit 4, titled Immanuel Kant's Critical Theory from the paper on Fundamental Concept of Philosophy. This unit will be covered in one video. In today's video, we will explore the detailed discussion of the concept of Kant's critical theory and the criticism attached to it. So let's begin the video with a general understanding of Kant's critical theory. Kant's critical theory, also known as transcendental idealism, represents a profound shift in modern philosophy, particularly in epistemology, metaphysics, and ethics. Kant's philosophy emerged as a response to the conflicts between rationalism and empiricism in the 17th and 18th centuries. Rationalism, championed by Descartes and Leibniz, argued that knowledge arises from reason alone, independent of sensory experience. In contrast, empiricists like Locke and Hume believed that knowledge comes solely from sensory experience and observations. Kant recognized the insight and limitation of both tradition and sought to reconcile them by addressing the questions. How is knowledge possible? He proposed that knowledge is not merely a passive reflection of the world, but is actively shaped by mind's inherent structures. According to Kant, we can only know the world as it appears to us, which is called phenomena, not as it is in itself, noumena, as our understanding is constrained by the condition of human perception and cognition. In ethics, Kant introduced a deontological framework emphasizing reason and duty over empirical consequences or inclinations. His concept of categorical imperative asserts that moral action must be guided by universal principles that apply to all rational beings. Kant's critical theory transformed philosophy by challenging earlier metaphysical assumptions and offering a new perspective on the mind's role in shaping knowledge and morality. His work influenced subsequent philosophical movements, including German idealism, phenomenology, and existentialism, and laid the groundwork for modern epistemology and ethics. So, learner, we will now discuss on transcendental idealism, advocated by Kant. Kant's central idea revolves around the distinction between the phenomenal and nominal world, which is a cornerstone of his philosophical system known as transcendental idealism. The phenomenal world refers to the world as we experience and perceive it through our senses. This is the realm of empirical knowledge and everyday experiences. In other words, it is the world as it appears to us. Kant argued that our perception of this world is not a mere reflection of reality, but is shaped and structured by mind's inherent categories and form of intuitions. This includes categories of understanding, such as causality, unity, plurality, which the mind uses to organize sensory information. Additionally, form of intuition like space, time are fundamental ways in which we perceive the world. Kant posited that space and time are not properties of external world, but are rather forms of institution that structure our experiences. On the other hand, the nominal world represents reality as it exists independently of our perception or sensory experience. This is the realm of things in themselves that we cannot directly know or experience. According to Kant, our knowledge is inherently limited to the phenomenal world because our perceptions, cognitive faculties are constrained by the innate structure of the mind. We can never access or comprehend the nominal world directly. It remains beyond the reach of human experience and understandings. Kant's critical insight was that our knowledge is not merely a passive reception of sensory input, but is actively shaped by the mind's cognitive structures. This perspective challenges previous notions that our knowledge directly mirrors the external world. Instead, the mind plays an active role in structuring and organizing sensory information through its categories and form of intuitions. For example, we do not simply see objects in space and time. Rather, space and time are the lenses through which we perceive and understand objects. By recognizing that we cannot know the nominal world, can establish a critical boundary for epistemology. We must acknowledge that while we can make valid claims about the phenomenal world, any assertion about the nominal world are beyond our cognitive capabilities. This distinction emphasizes that our knowledge is always mediated by our cognitive faculties and is limited to our experiences. We cannot claim to have knowledge about things in themselves, only about the world as it appears to us through our structured perception. Kant ideas also have implications for ethics, metaphysics, highlighting the importance of understanding the limits of human knowledge and the necessity of moral principles grounded in reason. His central ideas underscores the complexity of human knowledge and the importance of acknowledging the limits of understanding while recognizing the active role of mind in shaping our experiences. So, learners, after discussing Kant's transcendental idealism, we will now explicate the Copernican revolution in philosophy as advocated by Kant. Kant's Copernican revolution marks a transformative shift in understanding knowledge and perception, drawing inspiration from Copernicus, who proposed that Earth orbit the Sun rather than vice versa. Kant revolutionized philosophy by suggesting that objects conform to human cognition rather than our knowledge conforming to an independent external reality. Before Kant, philosophy largely viewed the mind as passively reflecting an objective world. Kant overturned this by arguing that mind actively structures experiences. Categories like space, time, for instance, are not features of the external world but innate frameworks imposed by the mind to organize sensory input. Thus, our knowledge arises from the interaction between sensory data and cognitive faculties, shaping the phenomenal world, the world as we experience it. However, Kant emphasizes a critical limit. While we can know the phenomenal world, the nominal world, the world as it exists independently of perception, remain inaccessible. This insight profoundly redefines epistemology, underscoring the active role of cognition in shaping reality and the boundaries of human understanding. Kant's revolutionary approach reshaped philosophical discourse on perception, knowledge, and reality, establishing a lasting legacy. So, learners, next we will focus upon the notion of synthetic a priori judgment as stated by Kant. Kant's concept of synthetic a priori judgment is central to his epistemology, redefining traditional notion of knowledge. To grasp this idea, it is crucial to understand the distinction Kant made between types of judgment and knowledge. Analytic judgments are true by definitions where the predicate is contained within the subject, such as all bachelors are unmarried. These judgments are tautological, necessarily true, non a priori independent of experience. Synthetic judgments, however, add new information to the subject, like the cat is on the mat, where the predicate extends the subject's meaning. These judgments are often derived from experience. Kant's innovation was to propose synthetic a priori judgments, which combine these categories. These judgments provide new knowledge not contained in definitions, yet are known independently of experience. For example, mathematical statements like 7 plus 5 equal to 2 are synthetic a priori. They extend knowledge, but are universally and necessarily true without relying on empirical cases. Similarly, fundamental scientific principles such as causality are a synthetic a priori. They structure and make sense of empirical observation, but are not derived from them. This idea bridges the divide between empiricism and rationalism, showing that some foundational knowledge arises from the mind's inherent structure, such as space, time, causality, actively shaping our experience. Synthetic a priori judgment does highlight the mind's role in organizing and interpreting reality, forming a cornerstone of Kant's critical knowledge. So, learners, next we will focus upon the notion of categories of understanding as stated by Kant after elucidating the priori judgments. The categories of understanding. Kant argued that our experience of the world is actively shaped by the mind's inherent structures, which he called categories of understanding. These a priori categories, such as causality, unity, plurality, necessity, are not derived from sensory experience, but are innate frameworks that organize and interpret raw sensory data. The category of causality enables us to perceive events as related through cause and effect, helping us understand sequences. Unity allows us to recognize objects as coherent entities rather than unrelated parts. Plurality lets us grasp objects consisting of multiple parts or existing in numbers, while necessity helps us identify universal truths independent of empirical observation. These categories are essential preconditions for coherent experience. For example, causality helps interpret one event as leading to another, and unity allows us to see an object as a singular whole. Without these mental structures, we could not make sense of sensory input. Kant's framework implies that while we can have meaningful knowledge of the world as it appears to us, which is the phenomenal world, we cannot access the world as it exists independently of our perception, the nominal world. This highlights the active role of the mind in constructing knowledge and sets critical boundaries of human understanding. So, learner, next we will focus upon the notion of moral philosophy, the categorical imperative, as stated by Kant after discussing the categories of understanding. Kant's ethical theory revolves around the categorical imperative, a universal principle guiding moral behavior, unlike hypothetical imperatives which are conditional and depend on individual goals. For example, if you want to succeed, study hard. Categorical imperatives are unconditional, universally binding, grounded in reason, applicable to all rational beings, regardless of personal desires, can emphasize acting from a sense of duty, not personal inclinations or expected outcomes. For instance, truth telling is moral duty not because it benefits you, but because it should universally guide behavior. Kant's universal law formula states that act only on maxims that could be universally applied without contradiction. His humility formula requires treating individuals as end in themselves, never as mere means to an end. In Kant's deontological ethics, moral worth lies in intention, not consequences. Right action adhere to duty, and categorical imperative contrasting with consequenceless view that focus on outcomes. So, learner, next we will focus upon the criticism of Kant's critical theory of knowledge. Kant's critical theory of knowledge, particularly as elaborated in his Critique of Pure Reason, has been a cornerstone of modern philosophy, but it also has faced substantial criticism. Below are some critiques. Number 1 point, ambiguity of noumena. Kant's distinction between phenomena, the world as we experience it, noumena, the world as it is in itself, has been criticized for its ambiguity. If the nominal world is beyond human cognition, critics argue, how can Kant assert its existence or even describe it as the source of phenomenal world? Philosophers like Hegel viewed this realism as problematic, suggesting it created an unnecessary division in reality. The second point is limits of synthetic a priori judgments. Kant's claim that synthetic a priori judgments are both possible and foundational for knowledge has been challenged. Empiricists like John Mill argue that all knowledge arises from experience, rejecting the notion of priori truth independent of empirical evidence. Conversely, some rationalists question whether synthetic a priori judgments truly bridge the gap between experience and reason. Number 3 point is dependency on human cognition. Kant posits that structure of human cognition, which is categories of understanding and form of intuition like space and time, are universal and necessary for knowledge. However, this anthropocentrism has been criticized for potentially limiting the scope of reality to human experience. Friedrich Nietzsche and later existentialists question whether Kant's framework adequately accounts for perspectives beyond human cognitions. Fourth point is lack of empirical verification. Kant's theory relies on speculative metaphysics regarding the structure of the mind and the nature of reality, which critics argue lacks empirical support. In the era of scientific advancement, some philosophers view his framework as too detached from empirical methodologies to remain relevant. Number 5 point is overemphasis on formal structure. Kant's focus on the formal structure of knowledge, which is categories, form of intuition, has been criticized for neglecting the role of historical, cultural, and social factors in shaping human understanding. Thinkers like Karl Marx, later critical theories argue that knowledge is deeply influenced by material conditions, power dynamics aspects Kant theory doesn't address. Number 6 point is the problem of freedom and determinism. Kant's reconciliation of freedom with his deterministic view of natural causality in the phenomenal world has faced scrutiny. Critics claim that Kant's assertion of freedom in the nominal realm while maintaining determinism in the phenomenal realm is inconsistent and fails to provide a satisfactory account of moral agency. Number 7 point is subjectivity of aesthetic and moral judgments. While Kant's theories on aesthetics and morality are influential, they have been critiqued for their abstract, universal approach. Critics argue that this theory sometimes ignore the diversity, subjectivity of human experiences, reducing ethical, aesthetic judgments to rigid frameworks, while Kant's critical theory of knowledge remains a monumental contribution to philosophy. Its critics highlight significant limitations. So these critiques have spurred subsequent philosophical developments, including Hegel idealism, Nietzsche perspectivism, and contemporary critiques emphasizing empirical, social, and cultural dimension of knowledge. Nonetheless, Kant's work continues to be a vital point of engagement for understanding the nature and limits of human cognitions. So, learners, in the conclusion, it can be said that Immanuel Kant's critical theory revolutionized Western philosophy by shifting focus from speculative metaphysics to the conditions that make knowledge and experience possible. Kant argued that knowledge is not a passive reflection of reality, but is actively shaped by the mind's innate structures and categories. A key distinction in his philosophy is between the phenomenal world as experienced through our cognitive frameworks and the nominal world which exists independently but is unknowable to us. This insight emphasized the limits of human knowledge, challenging earlier metaphysical claims about assessing ultimate reality. In ethics, Kant introduced the categorical imperative, a principle requiring actions to be guided by universally applicable maxims. This framework prioritized reason, duty over personal inclinations, forming the foundation of deontological ethics, influencing modern debates on moral principles and justice. Kant's contribution also extends to aesthetics, where his exploration of beauty, the sublime and the universal principle in subjective judgments, reshaped the philosophy of art by redefining the relationship between perception, knowledge, and morality. Kant's critical theory establishes a lasting framework for philosophical inquiry, influencing contemporary discussions on nature of reality, ethics, and human understanding. So, learners, let's focus on the multiple choice questions based on the concept of Immanuel Kant's critical theory. Number one point is question is what philosophical problem did Kant seek to address with his critical theory? There are four options. Number one option is nature of metaphysical speculation. B. Limitation of scientific knowledge. D. C. The reconciliation of rationalism and empiricism. D. The definition of moral duty. The answer would be reconciliation of rationalism and empiricism. Number two question is Kant's concept of transcendental idealism distinguishes between which two realms? Number A option is analytic and synthetic judgments. B. Phenomena and noumena. C. A priori and a posteriori knowledge. D. Categorical and hypothetical imperatives. The correct answer would be phenomena and noumena. Number three question is what does Kant's Copernican revolution in philosophy refer to? Number A option is the idea that knowledge conforms to the object as they are. B. The shift from focusing on objects to focusing on how the mind shapes experience. C. The rejection of both rationalism and empiricism. D. The revolution in moral philosophy. The correct answer would be number B. The shift from focusing on objects to focusing on how the mind shapes experiences. Number four question is what are synthetic a priori judgments according to Kant? Number A. Judgments that are true by definition and do not require experience. Number B. Judgments that add new knowledge and are known independently of experience. Number C. Judgments that are derived solely from empirical observation. Number D. Judgments that are only true in particular context. The correct answer would be number B. Judgments that add new knowledge and are known independently of experience. Number five question is which is of the following is an example of Kant's synthetic a priori judgment? Number A. All bachelors are unmarried. Number B. 7 plus 2 equal to 12. 7 plus 5 equal to 12. The sky is blue. All cats are mammals. The correct answer would be number B. 7 plus 5 equal to 12. Number 6 questions. What is the categorical imperative in Kant's moral philosophy? Number A options. A principle that action should be guided by personal inclinations. Number B options. A principle that action should be evaluated based on their consequences. Number C. A principle that moral action must be guided by maxims that can be universally applied. Number D. A principle that emphasizes emotional responses in moral decision making. The correct answer would be number C. A principle that moral actions must be guided by maxims that can be universally applied. Number 7 questions. In Kant's critical theory, what does autonomy refer to? Number A option. The freedom to act according to one's desire. Number B. Ability to govern oneself according to moral principles chosen by oneself. Number C. The influence of external forces on decision making. Number D. The dependency on empirical knowledge for moral decisions. The correct answer would be number B. The ability to govern oneself according to moral principles chosen by oneself. Number 8 question. According to Kant, what role do the categories of understanding play in human cognitions? Number A. They are learned thought experience. Number B. They are innate structures that organize sensory data. Number C. They are purely empirical and change over time. Number D. They are irrelevant to human cognition. The correct answer would be they are innate structures that organize sensory data. Number 9 question. Which of the following best describe Kant's view of the nominal world? Number A. It can be fully known through empirical observation. Number B. It is the world as it appears to us through our senses. Number C. It is a reality that exists independently of our perception, which we cannot know directly. Number D, it accessible only through scientific experimentations. Answer number C, it is the reality that exists independently of our perception, which we cannot know directly. Number 10 question is Kant's critical theory has had a significant impact on which areas of philosophy? Number A, epistemology, metaphysics, ethics and aesthetics. Number B, linguistics, mathematics and economics. Number C, theology, art and sociology. Number D, political science, psychology and anthropology. The correct answer will be number A, epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, and aesthetics. So, learners, after this whole discussion, what we can derive is that the dichotomy between empiricism and rationalism lead us to nowhere. So, and in order to resolve this issue, Kant has invented Kant's critical theory of transcendentalism, where he is admitting both the experiential or the idealistic world, which is he called phenomenal world and nominal world. Phenomenal is obviously we know, which is something like experience world, which we can perceive through our sense organs, and nominal world it is a transcendental world, which there we cannot apply our sense organs or our phenomenal understanding. So, in order to resolve between these two things, whether we should accept the rationalism or whether we should accept the empiricism, so that's why Kant has invented his own critical theory, which is recognizes Kant's critical theory of knowledge, where he is admitting both the existence, the phenomenal world as well, or a nominal world, in a way that he is giving emphasis to both the empiricism world, where our experience plays a very important role, or also the rational world, where our minds, our ideas plays a very important role. So, by reconciling these two worlds, empiricism world where phenomenal world plays a very important role, and the nominal world where our mind world or our rational world plays a very important role, by reconciling these two things, these two domains, we can at least come to the conclusion that in order to generate a pure understanding or pure knowledge, both the worlds occupies very important role. We cannot take a one-sided view regarding empiricism or either rationalism. In order to have a proper knowledge of this world, what we must have is like we have to admit the existence of both phenomenal world plus nominal world. The thing is this, the phenomenal world provides us a raw material data from empirical world, which we have to refine by our thoughts, by our rationality, by our mind. Then only we can get refined knowledge. So ultimately we can say that Kant's critical theory really attempted to provide a strong solution to this problem. But still, this theory has some kind of criticism where, like thinkers like Nietzsche or other existential thinkers has criticized. But the thing is that since it's philosophy, we can always have argumentations, debate regarding the proper solution of the any theory. So, in this sense, we can say that Kant has attempted a very good solution to solve this problem, the dichotomies between phenomenal world and nominal world. Thank you.